God has just made me realize that you asking for something and him saying that it's going to come through is not measured by what you want it to be measured by. It's measured by what he says is going to be measured by. We'll just wait for people to come back. But essentially, I think sometimes we just need moments to just praise God. I think that sometimes we just tend to focus on ourselves too much and say, oh, God, do this for me, God, do this for me, provide. But that's not the only conversation that you should be having with God. So in my WNR class this term, we've been looking at rage, love, and hope. So we ended up watching Inside Out. It's a really nice movie. So there's this girl called Riley. In the movie, Riley is being controlled by her emotions. So in the movie, there's there's disgust, hope, joy, sadness, and fear. Yes. For, let's say, majority of Riley's life that we've been shown so far in the movie is being guided by joy. Yes. The way that anger was described in the movie, anger was described as someone who feels very strongly about emotions. But most of the times we think that anger is a bad emotion. Like anger is not something that people are supposed to experience. But then in the movie, it made me realize that for Riley to be able to experience different forms of joy, she needed to be able to experience disgust, sadness, fear, and what's that one? Anger. And not only joy. So let me give you an example. For example, growing up, I used to have stage fright. And that's fear. But then there's one time when I went up on stage and my music teacher made me sing this other song and I ended up running out of stage. Then I was told to come back. And you know how embarrassing that can be. So at that moment, the only way that I could experience a different form of joy that I was not used to was by getting over my fear, mastering up that confidence and actually going on stage. And then afterwards, people would clap for me and I would feel something that I haven't felt before. So in this movie, Joy the emotion did not understand that Riley needed sadness to be able to experience vulnerability. She also didn't realize that sadness, disgust, and fear and anger would have to be experienced in order for Riley to experience different forms of joy. What do I mean by this? Riley being vulnerable may have made her feel uncomfortable at first. The waiting period was not what she wanted. So her, she was just used to, that instant joy. Like you experience something, she doesn't want to lose even a match. Like she was really good at hockey. So when she lost a match, she would always cry about it. So she was always used to being top in everything and having everything handed down to her. But then she needed to experience joy in different forms, which now included that sadness. All she ever experienced was joy, but she needed a detoxing of some sort that would allow her to be vulnerable and eventually lead her to be blessed. What I'm saying is that for some of you, all you've ever experienced in your life is joy. When you ask God to provide, and right when you woke up from your nap, he came through like that. You think that God will answer you with exactly what you wanted. But sometimes God is quiet. He whispers, and you have to be patient. This is something that God is teaching me. I was fasting last week. And I said I was only going to fast for 3 days because back home I never really used to fast seriously. I would just say, okay, I'm deleting social media for a day and I've fasted. But in this school, God taught me that, there's actually so much peace that comes out of fasting, guys. Like, there are moments when I would see people going to the dining hall and I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm going to go to my room and worship and cry and tell God, like, just how marvelous He is, And I felt so much energy, guys. I went for business. And Yakwezi and Lele can tell you, I went for business. And I had energy, bro. Like, and it was after lunch. Like, after lunch, not in the morning. But yeah, and I just, like, God has just made me realize that you asking for something and Him saying that it's going to come through is not measured by what you want it to be measured by. It's measured by what He says is going to be measured by. And even though it's really hard for us to accept it, because right now, my friends can tell you my situation is very weird. I applied ED, I applied EA, but I haven't received my decision. And the thing is, I should have received my decision by now. But they're just small things. Like, I had to do an English proficiency test for one of the schools, my ED school. I wrote it 4 times. It was not certified. 4 times, it was not certified. So now I have to pay for it again. And I'm just like, God, so much is happening when I'm asking God for things. And I've been patient. It's not like I have not been faithful during this time. It's not like I haven't been praying. It's not like I haven't been doing my Bible study, even before I was fasting. But then God just keeps reminding me that I needed to experience these moments for you to be able to be blessed, for you to be able to experience different forms of joy. And for some of you, it's going to be really hard to acknowledge that. But best believe that God is working. God is going to continue working through it all. And remember that your situations do not define you being happy or not. I can be going through the most right now, but I'm still going to find peace. I'm still going to feel joy. Don't get me wrong, God will provide, like He said He would. But it won't always be joy and roses. And I think a lot of people think that it would be. Your blessing can come through a different form. Your blessing can look very different. For some of your friends, you might see them receiving the decisions before year ones. I know a lot of you applied for BSP, but Nasira is the only one that got in. But that doesn't mean that God is not coming through for you. That doesn't mean that you're not receiving anything else. And I think it's high time that you acknowledge that God doesn't work in one way, and we shouldn't expect Him to work in one way. Even when you look at the Bible, Sarah waited for such a long time, like such a long time for a baby. What makes you think that your situation is going to be different? Not in a bad way, but in the way that God works, no one can really understand it. No one will ever understand it. Dara's blessing may come tomorrow. Zach may have to wait 5 years, but that doesn't mean that Dara is more blessed than Zach. That just means that Zach needs to go through something before he receives his second half. I just want us to listen to the song Promises and really, really, really start changing the way we think about what God said He's going to do in our lives. It's not based off timing. It's not based off what other people have gotten and what you haven't gotten. It's based off what He said is meant for you. So just Feel free to stand up, feel free to sit down, feel free to kneel. Just praise God, worship Him, speak in tongues. Yeah, believe that God is doing His thing. Church leaders. Your faithful promises, time and time again, you have proven you do just what you say. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I remain steadfast. And let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me, The season's changing, you remain the same. Hey, child of Abraham, you can cut me pass away. Your word remains the same.